Hey everybody, welcome to The Well. This is a show where we do what you do, and we're going to take you on that journey to see how we've developed our financial advisory practice as digital marketers turned financial advisors.
All right, welcome back. Season 2, episode 10, Andrew Riis.
Of The Well.
Of The Well.
Of The Well. This is a good one. We're going to talk, last episode was all about part 2.
Yeah.
Talked a little bit about like kind of the differences in our processes now that we're kind of running those on our own. And we've had a few people request that part 2 document. Sent that out last couple of times. So if you go back and watch that episode, all you gotta do is comment on YouTube's or in the comment section of link, or well, anywhere the video lives.
Anywhere, and let us know what you would change. After you use it, you should update it for how you use it.
Yeah.
And let us know what those changes were, because we're always learning too.
Yep, absolutely. So today we're basically just going to cover the next step, which is part 3. As a reminder for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, which I can't imagine. I mean, you guys, there's some great content. Go back a year or two. We break our process into a 3-part process. Seminar or webinar is part 1. Then the first meeting is part 2. And then part 3 is where we deliver our recommendations and kind of satisfy what the client needs most of the time.
Yeah, and I would say like in the past, when we first started, when we were just basically selling insurance or annuities, those types of things, retirement plans, but as the primary vehicle, annuities, it was a closed meeting also.
Yeah.
But I notice for sure now that it's more comprehensive and holistic. It's not. Yeah. It's hardly ever a closed meeting.
Yeah, there's more steps involved to the close than there was in the past, and that's dragging it out into. We have part 3.1, part 3.2, 3.3.
That's how we label it.
I got some people on some like part 3.4s at this point. It's like there's just so many more things that have to be done.
And that'll be the next episode.
That's right.
That's what we're going to talk about. What do you do if they don't convert in your office during that part 3? What's the next part? So that'll be episode 11.
That's right.
But for today, we got this part 3.
Yeah, and we actually have a part 3 today that we are doing together, which we haven't been doing most of our part 3s together here in the last probably 6 or 8 months. But this is one we're going to be doing together, and so we're not going to use the guy's name, but we're going to kind of go through kind of the outline that we have for him because we're going to be giving this presentation in just a couple hours. So keeping it fresh and relevant in our brains as well as sharing the content with you guys. So
that's right. Double dipping.
That's right. So Richy, when somebody comes in for a part 3, how do you start it off? How do you kick off part 3?
Well, I know that you and I both do this. We're really intentional about it. We kick it off way before they're ever here. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is getting the room in shape, getting it ready, getting the music on, getting the board green light because our colors are green. Mm-hmm. Putting welcome to part 3. I angle the chair so I know which one they're going to sit in. I get maybe a mint, or I get their paperwork ready. All that stuff really fully prepared so that when they come through the store, it's already an experience.
Yeah, that's good. I do the same exact thing. I try to get to the office 30 minutes before they're going to be here, just so I can do all that stuff and get myself ready too, because I have to like kind of think through the presentation I'm going to give, and usually I'll make a couple tweaks to the slides and do things. But even backing up a couple of days before, preparing for the part 3, mm-hmm. we probably spend, I don't know how much you spend. I usually spend a couple hours just building the presentation. Yep. Kind of going through and massaging the various reports, and if I'm running any illustrations or pulling any numbers like that. Every part 3 presentation that we do is unique, because everybody's problems and challenges are unique. Now there's a lot of things that are templated, and after today's episode, if you want some of those kind of like templated like outline things, we'll share it with you, just like with the part 2. But we spend a lot of time building that presentation ahead of time, because can't go in there with just a piece of paper and hope to close business anymore.
Yeah, what I always challenge myself with is I want to know their accounts better than they do. Like I want to know if they say, what's my fee? I know it. Right. What was my gains last year? I know it. What was this? I know it. Like I try to, and I'm not always great at it. It's something I have to challenge myself to do and to remember that. But for sure, I want to say our templated slide is probably like 50 something slides. Yeah. We're not using those, but I'm saying like, we'll be like, oh, that was a really good one. I'll add that into the template. Mm-hmm. And then if you go through and you're building out a new one for Bob and Susan, and that slide doesn't fit, you just delete it and use the ones that do. But so yeah, the template is probably 50 something slides, and maybe a given presentation. Well, what's this one actually? It's like,
I think it's gonna be 30 or so. I think 47.
47, yeah. So I mean, it's well, that's cheating a little bit, because I don't like we don't do transitions most of the time in the slide.
Right.
So if I'm going to add a bullet point, it's another slide.
Right.
And then another slide. So it's probably, I don't know, 30 slides.
Yeah, 30 sections of content, so to speak.
Right.
30, whole slides.
Yeah. And the appointments are hour and a half, I would say, 2 hours, just depends.
Yeah, I mean, it really does depend. If it's, I've had some that go 30 minutes because it's just we go through the content, so they have no questions, and that's that.
Yep.
And I've had some that take 2.5, 3 hours.
Which I prefer. Honestly, I prefer that.
Yeah.
A nice hour and a half, 2 hour appointment. Because if they're due, it's
yeah.
Where are you at?
Right. Yeah, the short ones don't typically translate to business. Let's put it that way.
Are you good or So yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so an hour and a half. So it's a lot of slides, but there's a lot of time, and you're not putting every piece of word on the slide. You're just putting the highlights, and then you're talking about it with them. Do you understand? Do you have any questions? Move on to the next one. So
yep.
Kind of sets the tone.
Once they get in, and we sit down, do the pleasantries, how's it going? Hey, we saw you, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. Did you travel last weekend?
Yep.
Did you see the grandkids? Any updates? Sometimes, they're right in the midst of retiring, or they're, something did change. Oh, well, we had one came in. It's like, yeah, I moved all my assets to cash. And I'm like, oh, great.
Okay.
Perfect. That's going to make this a lot easier.
You said it. You said something right before the show, and we've said it many times, but a lot of times these people just want to talk.
Yeah.
And it's one of the joys of the job, I think, is because they do. And once you've had the first appointment, you've built some rapport. So when they come into this one, a lot of times it's, I just had my daughter over and the grandkids, and we did this, we did that. And they talk a little more, which I always enjoy. It's a little more fun. It's not as cold as the part 2. It's kind of warm.
Yeah. I totally agree with that and resonate with it, because in the last 2 weeks, because we both actually went on vacation to Florida, and in between my part 2 and my part 3, I was on vacation, and they knew that because I had told them, hey, I can't schedule it for this week because I'm going to be out of town, blah, blah, blah. And so they all asked about it, and I happened to have all the pictures on my computer, and so I'm like, oh, yeah, here, let me show you a picture. This is the beach we were at, this is the shells we found, da-da-da-da. And so it kind of continues to build that affinity with them, because now they recognize that I'm a real person, and they now see my kids and my wife and like us enjoying our vacation and stuff like that. So it's been really, really good.
That was beautiful, by the way. Florida was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my weather wasn't so good.
I was just saying, I know you guys had some weather.
Yeah. My weather wasn't so good, but we had a great time. It was. I don't know if we definitely didn't talk about it in the last one.
I'm trying to think. I'm blurry when we shot the last one.
Those ones. Yeah. If you're a beachgoer, you know that double red flags mean you can't go in the water, and we had double red flags for, I think, 4 of the 6 days we were there, and it's no joke. When the water's that big, it's no joke.
You don't want to get in there when it's that big.
No, I was a little arrogant about it. I was like, I can handle that.
Did you try and they yelled at you? Hey.
No, because they don't yell at you. They give you a $500 fine for everybody that's in the water.
Oh, man.
So I didn't do that. But when the red flag was single red flags, I did do that. And that was big. That was I wasn't scared.
Boogie board at all, or just
did
let it slap you in?
Yeah, I did boogie board a little bit, and like 2 or 3 runs in, because I was just worn out.
Yep.
Like
that's a lot. That water was so powerful.
Yeah,
so
it was crazy.
A good reminder. But when we went a week after you to the same ish area, no weather at all.
Yeah, it was yellow flags the whole time. And
the
you guys
entire
had perfect
time, it was perfect weather.
Yeah, we had 3 years of perfect, or 2 years of perfect weather and 1 year of bad. So what I said to the kids is like, we're bound to have a bad weather week. We played a lot of cards. We had some fun. We rented a boat, did some cool stuff. So had a good time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how honestly, that's how we kind of started our part 3, is just like, just kind of chatting about stuff. And from there, it's like, okay, so what are we here to do today? Today is part 3 where we're going to, go through all of your stuff. And I jump right into, give them a disclosure right away, because we kind of have to say, hey, this, securities are offered through blah, 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 blah. You got to do all that stuff. Talk about our fiduciary obligations and say, we're going to offer you information here that's in your best interest, and so on and so forth. So we do all the normal disclosure stuff, but then we jump right to the agenda, and the agenda will be kind of the framework for the rest of this podcast, kind of talking through the order that we do this presentation. So how do you start? You start off the same way I do, I assume. Just follow pretty much the same agenda.
Yeah, I do. So it's the agenda is listed. We could put this on the screen. It's 1, 2, and 3. And there's sub bullet points A, B under 1, A, B, C, D, E, F under 2. Yep. And I'll go each one. So here's the agenda. We're doing a quick review of the last meeting. And so in 1A, in part 2, we spent all the time on you. And we asked all these questions 20 different ways. You remember that? We kind of had fun with it, kind of jogged their memory. And I say, so what I did is we got you on paper. And so in the part 3 on the next slide, you're going to see all the bullet points I pulled from what you said. Because that's how we build this plan, is based off of what you said, not what we said. So in 1A, we'll do that. And then in 1B, we have our thoughts, notes, concerns based on what I heard. And usually that's you and I just kind of, again, setting the tone of what the recommendation might be, how we work. It's a little bit of philosophy mixed in. It's pretty loose, but it's so that's how I do it. I literally go, line by line on what it means. And then in 3, working with us will be the last thing. And it wraps up pretty quick. I'm going to go through these things and get your thoughts, and then we'll go back through and we could do the what ifs, and we can play around and do all that. Do you have any questions? Always ask after every slide. Does that make sense to you? Have any questions? Any thoughts on that? You good? Check in with them. Okay. Because you're getting the yeses.
Yep.
And then you go to the next one.
Yeah, I follow a pretty similar approach. Yeah, almost identical for the first section, the quick review of the last meeting. And then as I don't do it on every slide, but at the very minimum, at the end of each section, where I'm going from, A to B to C to D, like after I talk about our philosophy, I'll say, okay, any questions on that philosophy? Does that make sense to you? Does it align with what you're looking for in your retirement plan?
Okay.
And always try to kind of say something like that to prompt them to say yes. And I have yet to have anybody say no to that question. But oftentimes when we ask, does this make sense? Do you need, is there something on this that is, unclear to you? They'll often go back and say, well, you talked about this number or this, statistic or this, whatever. And can you explain that a little bit? And I think it's key to not just fly through it.
Yes. And tell them this is a conversation.
Right.
In this and everything I'm going to show you is really a snapshot. You sent me a bunch of stuff, pretend like the numbers are all moving and we froze it in time, and that's what I'm showing you today.
Yep.
And so if you have questions, don't feel silly about that. Things are constantly moving. Your life is changing, and that's what I want. So really invite that conversation into this, because you need them to talk. If they're quiet, that's what we said in the beginning, that 30-minute meeting is not a great meeting.
Right.
Because you don't know where they're at. So you want them to talk.
Yeah, absolutely right. So you mentioned the bullets that we do. I think this is key. We mentioned it in the part 2.
Yeah, this is secret sauce.
Yeah, for sure. The next 2 slides, really the next slide is probably the most critical. And it's where we both kind of go through our appointment 2 or our part 2 document, and we find the things that we highlighted in there that are their primary concerns. And there are some that almost never change. Like, I don't want to run out of money in retirement, I want to retire by this certain year, or I want to make sure I leave money to my kids, or I want to, I'm worried about taxes, or whatever it is. You find those 4 or 5 things that are, critical to them, and that are critical to their success, and you use their words in that bulleted list.
Key.
This is what you told me were your top concerns. And after I run through those, I always say, did I miss anything? And I don't think I've ever had anybody say, oh yeah, you didn't include the thing on, my Walmart stock or whatever, that I'm concerned about. Because we take really, really freaking good notes in part 2.
It's incredible notes, and every time they do, I think, feel a little bit surprised. I almost kind of get that reaction from during that part, because we do, and like you said, it's in their words. So we're just putting it in a bullet point format. We're showing it to them. We said, did I hit everything? Do you feel like this is you? Did I miss anything? I don't think I have ever had somebody say, I don't think that's me.
Right. Yeah. And I always follow it up. Once they say, yes, that's me, great. Because what I did is, throughout the rest of this presentation, if I didn't check one of these boxes, I went back and reworked the numbers so that I could check this box. And if by doing that, it unchecked another box, I had to go back and rework it again. So this list is what informs the rest of this presentation. Like, of course, I've got thoughts and notes and concerns, and I've got numbers to show you here. But just know that throughout the rest of this presentation, everything is informed by these bullets. And that's our obligation to you, is that we have to make sure we're working in your best interest and checking off your boxes. And I use that language, I'm checking off your boxes. Yeah. Because later on in the presentation, we're going to check those boxes.
We're going to check them with them.
Check those boxes.
And they're going to say, yes, you did check that.
That's right.
One thing I wanted to note that I've added recently is to that second one, need a comprehensive plan. And then I put in parentheses, serious 10. Because we've incorporated that, are you serious, curious question. We did a whole episode on this a few back.
Yep.
If you want to go over that, but so they'll answer, and so in this case, this gentleman answered serious 10. So in the part 3, when I get to that, I'll say, you told me you need a comprehensive plan, and if you remember, I asked you, were you serious or curious, and you said serious, and you're a serious 10. Is that still the case today? because I want them to reaffirm, like, yeah, I'm serious. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Because if you're serious, then the plan I'm going to show you is going to get you there. Right. So I've been adding that. It's early, so I don't know if it's moving the needle yet, but it's something
It's good. I'm going to steal that because I have not been doing that. And I like that.
So far, you know, and because it's not always a serious 10. It's, you know, it's serious 7 or but then that's an opportunity. Has that number moved up for you? Or has it moved down? Where are you at? But if you are still here, you're in the right room.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So, I mean, everybody's notes, their concerns, their boxes to check are always so unique. So it won't do us any good to read these ones off necessarily. But, you know, essentially it's going to be things like don't run out of money, you know, pay my bills, you know, go on vacation, do this, do that, do the other thing. It's whatever their goals and objectives
whatever
are.
That trip is. I want to buy that RV. I want to.
Yep.
I want to not be stressed, whatever it is.
I almost always will throw, I don't want to call it a silly one.
At the end.
But like a happy one. Yeah. Like you said you wanted to go to Greece. Like, let's make sure you can go to Greece type thing. Like, you know, one of those will almost always make its way into the list. But that it depends on the personality of the client too.
And the rapport you've built.
That's
that
right.
Kind of stuff, yeah.
That's right. With one that I did recently, I even alluded to it in a previous episode. They said they just want to be able to bless people. And so that was something that I put on that list. That was one of their concerns. They wanted to be able to bless people. So I said, all right, cool. That's going to make the list. And I think that does move the needle for sure.
I think what you're saying there, if I could just put a word on it, it's just dynamic. If you're not dynamic as an advisor, you need to work on that.
Yeah.
Because every person is so different that if you don't have that, you're selling yourself short. And if your closing ratios aren't where they're supposed to be, that's probably a pretty good place to look.
Yeah.
Are you dynamic enough? Are you talking to the person you're with?
Are you being that chameleon? I mean, that's a basic sales tip. Like you have to mirror their behavior and their language and all this stuff. You have to be a little bit of a chameleon, and it's not disingenuous. It's just like, hey, I'm trying to get on the same side of the table as you and understand what you need, and using your language to help you understand what I'm trying to present.
Right. If I go into Bass Pro and I meet somebody, we're probably talking about fishing and hunting,
right?
Because I'm a Bass Pro.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm at a sushi place, I'm probably talking about sushi.
Right. It's the way it is.
It's the way it goes. So match where you're at, and that's all right.
Yeah. So from there, after we've gone through their thoughts and concerns, we talk about our thoughts and concerns. And these are the first probably 3 or 4.
They don't change.
Don't change much. I mean, maybe they get tweaked a little bit based on the language, but for the most part, they're always going to be the same. It's going to be, basically something about reducing their risk, increasing their retirement income, maintaining healthy liquidity of assets, preserving their assets and enjoying gains, things like that. And then from there, and it looks like you've done the same thing that I typically do here. You find some things that they said they wanted, and then you use language that is your language, so to speak, to say, hey, this is one of the things that we're trying to accomplish for you as well.
Yeah, and this is really a little bit of philosophy seeding. Just, like for us personally, we're not, I really enjoy working with the retiree kind of age. So, I mean, we're starting to work with a little bit younger audiences and help them wealth accumulate and those things. But I really enjoy that 60 to 70, getting ready to retire, age. And so putting language around what we're doing for them is setting that tone again, a spending plan. Because everybody thinks about, well, actually, I'm cheating on myself because this isn't new. This isn't mine. You guys have heard this a million times. But it's such a good visual. The next 3 slides. I don't know if you always keep this in yours. I think for the most part,
pretty rarely for me at this point.
Okay.
I will allude to it verbally, but I don't put it on the screen anymore.
Okay. So I do it's the classic mountain, and even talking about it almost feels silly, but I do notice with them, it for me, I'm such a visual person that it does translate what I want it to.
Yeah.
But it's and the reason I thought of this is because the spending plan that lasts as long as you do is usually one of my bullet points. But everybody works on the front side of the mountain, where you're working to accumulate and get to the top. But then once you're there, nobody thinks about that backside at all. So there's a mountain transparent on the backside, and then I switch it transparent on the front side, and we're focusing on the back. So this, for me, and it depends obviously the age, and are they retired or where are they at in their life. But a lot of times this one sets that tone of like, you've gotten here, but you don't really know what to do with that money, and there's not a lot of people that specialize in that.
Right.
Even if you go to some of the big shops, they'll help you kind of manage your money, but they don't necessarily specialize in how do you actually decumulate that money.
Right.
So it's nothing new, but I do notice for me, when I show this to them, it does set the tone pretty well. I think they see it visually. It's been a good couple of slides for me.
Yeah. No, I do like it, and it's an illustration that I still definitely allude to.
Yeah.
I think I use it more now with the younger clientele, ironically.
Okay.
Because I'm like, you're still climbing this side of the mountain, but you're getting close to the precipice. So you need somebody that's going to help you finish that race and then also make it down the other side. So
okay.
I kind of made it a hybrid approach.
Yeah, I like that too. People. That's why I like it. I mean, it's so flexible. You can use that really however you want.
Yep. From there, we dive really into the philosophy, which the philosophy of PlanWise really is boiled down to preserve and grow your savings. I mean, that's what we're trying to help people accomplish. And we kind of, we expound on that statement, but this is like, hey, if we boil what we do into one little sentence, that's what we do, is preserve your savings and grow them, so that you can rely on them for the rest of your life.
I usually talk about how we make money there as well. Just because I think it makes it easier after I've presented that they already know what to expect. Yeah. So I'll mention it there lightly, and then I'll just go into, again, we're preserving and growing.
Yeah. After that, we dive right into the numbers, really. I mean, we talk about risk. Because at the end of part 2, we talked about this last time. In a part 2, we have them take some sort of risk analysis, whether it's Riskalyze or we've used a couple others in the past, to try to define, hey, where is your headspace with risk? And then how does your portfolio align with that as it is right now? And so we'll say, hey, you remember the quiz in part 2? You remember what you scored on that? And sometimes they remember, sometimes they don't.
Hardly ever.
Right. And it's like, well, you scored a 42. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. And so we talk about what that means. That means you're a moderate, conservative, whatever. And they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then we'll say, any guesses what your portfolio scored? Do you still do that the same way? Yeah,
exact same way.
Yep. Any guesses what your portfolio scored? And they're like, well, no, it's, and they usually know, like, it's probably more aggressive than I am. And occasionally that's not the case, but most of the time it's like, yeah, it scored, a 70, or it scored a 51, or it scored a 68, or it scored a 90, whatever it might be. And sometimes they're shocked and they're like, well, I didn't know it was that high.
Yep.
And some are like, I need to pull that back. I'm like, yeah, you do.
I get the shocks, I think, more than the understanding.
Yeah.
I think most people think that they're not as at risk as they are.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. So mentally, especially again, talking about that age group that I'm getting ready to retire within a couple of years, you start really slowing down that risk. So in their mind, of course, they're scoring 30, 40.
Right.
And then their portfolio comes back 70, 80, 90. It's like, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to show you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we do next is like, okay, so but what does it actually mean? Because like it's just a number on a screen, right? What does it actually mean if you're taking on that much risk? And we define it at that point, and we do kind of a stress test and say, like, this is what it means. If you're taking this much risk, this is your downside risk. Here's your upside opportunity with that kind of risk. And what does that mean over the next 6 to 12 months? Like, this is how much you could lose. This is how much you could make. So risk is not necessarily a bad thing, because there's a lot of upside opportunity. But how old are you right now? You're 67 years old.
What's the risk worth to you?
That's right. And this is an evolving process for Richy and I at this point. But like we start talking about like, so where should you be at this stage of your life? Are you okay with that kind of risk? Are you comfortable here? And if they say yes, okay, well, we're not. We're not, and here's why.
They won't say yes.
I've never had anybody say yes.
No, they don't want that either.
Yep. And so it's like, all right, well, we're not comfortable with it either. And here's why. Because you can still capture 70-80% of that upside and cut back on that downside by 50 or 60%. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, why wouldn't you take your downside risk of negative 10 or 12 and cut it down to negative 4 or
and you guys
less?
Know the software, it puts it into their numbers. So we're not sharing that because we don't give anything away, but obviously it's like, are you okay possibly losing 50 grand to make 80 or whatever it is, and so they see that, oh no, I don't. If I lost 50 grand in my portfolio, I'm not going to be happy.
Right.
Well, we don't think you should be.
Right. And that's one of the things I really like about the software is it says in the software questionnaire, it's like, if your portfolio went down $55,000 tomorrow, what would you do?
Yep.
And almost all of them are like, I would sell. I would get out. I would reduce my risk immediately. It's like, of course, that's you. But what you need is somebody who's going to actively do that ahead of time, so you don't lose the $55,000 in the first place.
That's right.
That's
somebody that has your back.
Yeah.
Not just to set it and forget it.
Yep. And from there, and man, this we might have to break part 3 into 2 episodes.
No, we're already at 20-something minutes here.
Yeah, I know. We're because we're not even to the meat yet.
Well, let's do it.
Let's break it. Let's stop before the action plan, and we'll just do the next episode will be to be continued.
Action plan forward. Okay.
Yeah, action plan forward. So there we go. So Yeah, from there, and this is an evolving thing. We just recently started doing the stress test on the portfolio.
Yeah.
Some of the software that I'll say Riskalyze.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you guys have access to that, and there's dozens of different software platforms out there that work this way.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Riskalyze, but they're all similar.
Right. Yep.
No.
And it's Nitrogen now, not Riskalyze.
I'm sorry, yeah, it is.
Stupidest rebranding.
But
Nitrogen, if you're listening, that's dumb. Riskalyze made a lot of sense. We're analyzing your risk. Nitrogen makes zero
and the
sense.
links still go to Riskalyze.
I know, and everything in the report says Riskalyze. I'm like, guys, this is dumb. Why did you do this? All these companies out there rebranding just for the sake of rebranding makes me crazy. Yeah. But anyway, I like that. What I really like about it is it shows us the probability of success. Mm-hmm. And so we define that like, hey, we want to see a minimum of X out, of 90% probability of success out to age 90. And we want to try to improve your income situation. And so what we've started doing is basically saying, look, this is what your current portfolio can produce in terms of income. Mm-hmm. This is how you're currently allocated. This is its income producing ability. Because this is a line that I got from somebody that works at RA, and he said, hey, the way you judge the efficacy of any portfolio is by its ability to produce income, not whether or not you need the income, how much income can it produce. Because if you do need the income, you want to know what it can give you.
You're going to want to, you're going to want to know.
Yep. So we stress test it. We just say, all right, as it's allocated right now, with inflation at 2%, with the spending that you said you want to have, with your Social Security, any other sources of income that you have, how much money can you pull out of your portfolio in a given month? And it calculates it and gives it a margin of error, basically, and shows you how much volatility is in there, and say, okay, based on this, your current portfolio is going to, fail 45% of the time. You have a 55% probability of success. Does that sound good? Like you could run out of money by 2047 based on this. Nobody likes that. They don't like saying that big red line.
That's a hard fact.
Yeah, but it's like, look, I'm just math and science. I'm not. This isn't me.
That's the thing. It's yeah, exactly right. It's not emotional. I mean, it's an emotional reaction, but the numbers are not emotional. They're numbers.
Right. Yeah, that's what I love about it. And they're like, well, I did have recently somebody say, well, how do you get to that conclusion? So they can go back into Riskalyze and say, look,
show it.
This is the positions that you're in right now are, they're scoring this in terms of risk. And here's why. It's because of the volatility. Here's the growth opportunity that's there. And you'll notice on this chart that there's a big wide gap here. Why is that? Well, because you're in a pretty volatile situation. It could go up, it could go down. So you might not run out of money at 2047. You might have 3 times as much money in 2047.
Yep.
But we don't know.
That's the thing, and that's what I really love about being so visual. Like that's that flashlight beam. We have a creek in the backyard, but it's down in the trees and it goes down quite a ways, and it gets a little bit dark even if the sun's not down. So we got a flashlight for the boys. But you could put that thing on a really wide beam, and it's light. But if you really want to see something, you need to narrow that beam and really zoom in on it, and then it's very illuminated and bright. So like this thing, you could wide beam it and you could kind of see.
Right.
But if we can narrow that beam where they can really see and it's clarity, to me, like it's visual, it makes sense. It's like, yeah, why would I risk this level of volatility when I could just be right here,
right,
with the same probability or better?
Yeah, it's much more precise that way. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Is we're using this as like, hey, we know with some level of certainty that this is how it's going to work out.
Right.
Even if the market collapses.
Right.
This is generally speaking how it's going to work out. As you are right now, that beam's very wide. Like you could wander down that forest path and end up in the ditch, or you might get lucky and be fine. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have certainty, or at least a high level of certainty, or would you rather be kind of like, I'm not really sure what's going on? And I think that's been a really good tool. That particular, it's the I can't remember what they call it. I think it's just the income test in Riskalyze. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's all the way on the left. Click the button. Click the button.
You've done this a few times.
I've done it a few times. But at any rate, that has been, for me, that's been a real game changer recently, just because it's like, look, this is what your current portfolio is doing. And what I really like about it is, and I don't know if this is helping me or hurting me, but I like that I can show them, hey, listen, you don't have to work with me. Like, here are ways that you can make your current portfolio do basically what I can do for you. You can spend less money, or you can work longer. You want to work longer? Or do you want to spend less money? Do you, either of those things? Because those are the two solutions. If you don't change anything about your current portfolio, you can make it work, but you have to spend less money, or you're going to have to work longer. Which one of those do you want? Nobody wants to spend less money. Nobody wants to work longer. It's like, okay, there is another solution, and it's my solution.
Here's how you get there.
You can retire when you want to retire. You can spend what you want to spend. and your money's going to last. 90% of the time, it's going to last with no questions. So, and I'll always stop and be like, which one of those three do you like the best?
Yeah. Well, the answer's pretty clear.
And there's like, well, obviously that one. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
I agree.
Think so too.
So with that, we're going to jump into the action plan.
Yeah.
And that's usually where I jump in. So
yeah, to
be continued.
Yeah, this was going to be one episode, but it was a good call. Let's break it up. So in the next episode, we'll go through the action plan and kind of the close, a little bit of the education that we throw in there, and how we actually get that yes answer at the end. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. So Ethan, roll that to be continued on there. Well, not yet though, because we got what's on feet.
Did it start or did it stop? Did you have him put it on there at all, or did it just don't do it? Okay, I just checking. I don't know what these are called. I don't remember.
Aren't those varsity Reds?
Nope, they're not varsity. It's like I almost had it.
Cardinal?
Nope. Starts with an A, I think.
I don't remember.
Artesian red or something like that.
Artisanal red?
Artisanal red, yeah.
Okay.
Just some Jordan 1s, and they're really just a basic one. They're not like a premium material, but I haven't had any of this maroon color, and I actually have quite a few maroon shirts. Of course, they're all long sleeve, and it's now summer here. So
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, I'm wearing a pair that I have worn on the podcast before. These were a Christmas gift from Richy last year. These are the SB Dunks, the Wolf Grays, and I really like them. These look amazing, right?
They look brand new still.
I wear these probably 2 or 3 times a week, and they are just rock solid.
Yeah, I've been impressed with that.
A friend of mine, Jake, said, hey, the best quality shoe you can ever buy for a daily driver is the SB Dunk. And he is not wrong. These things have held up. There's a little bit of scuffing on them, but they have held up. But because I've worn them on the podcast before, I brought another pair, a treat for those sneakerheads that are out there.
Yeah. Oof.
These are the Jumpman Jack trainers, and I've only opened this box twice since I got these shoes.
Yep.
And for those of you that are not sneakerheads, Travis Scott collaborates with Jordan, and those shoes always sell for a mint. I mean, immediately they sell out. And so if you don't get them on a drop, you have to buy them resell, and they usually quadruple in value like overnight.
Yep.
I got these on a drop. Like, I wasn't planning on it. Honestly, I don't really like these shoes that much.
Yeah, but it's
a Travis Scott.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go for it because why not?
And your drops this year
are
ridiculous.
I've been getting them like crazy. So I entered the draw for these, and I got them, and I was shocked because it's like, there's no way. And I don't remember what the retail was on them, like maybe $200 or something like that.
Yeah, just to start with. Yeah.
But like that day, they were listing on StockX for almost $1,000, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna turn a pretty penny on these. Now they're not worth that much; they've come down in value, but I'm gonna hold on to them for a while.
They'll absolutely go triple that. I would think.
They will. The boxes on these are just so cool,
I want to see
and they're just over the top. They're just real heavy.
Too.
Like the paper that's in here, you can't probably even see it on camera, but they've got this like, I don't know, shiny bits and whatnot.
Do you keep your boxes at home?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hannah's begging me to get rid of them. Like, I can't.
You can't.
It's part of the shoe.
Yeah. So, and this one these come with a really cool bag, and like even like the little red accents on the lace there. Yeah. I'm going to take the shoe out that I have unwrapped before. I have one of them that I've never unwrapped, and it's not going to get unwrapped. This one I have unwrapped. So even this paper has the accent material on it, and like there's a little sticker. The Jack graphic will wear off over time. So like it's like, hey, don't wear these too much, basically. But here you go. This is the Travis Scott Jumpman Jack Trainer Sail, I think is what the colorway is. And there you go. So... Travis Scott is famous for the backwards swoosh, which is why...
That's how you know.
I like these. This is the logo, I guess, that wears off if you wear them too much, so you don't want to wear them too much, but...
You got that gum bottom.
Yeah, they're a good-looking shoe. I've never worn a Jumpman trainer before, so I don't even know if I'd like them.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't put these on my feet, but they're a good-looking shoe.
Yeah.
I'm just not a huge fan of the style. So I don't know that I'll wear them. I'll probably just sell them in a year or two and see what I can get for them. But otherwise, I might just keep them on the shelf. I mean, that's technically a trophy.
That is a soft.
Yeah, the leather quality is amazing. Yeah, it's solid.
My least favorite part is that
a little guy in the back.
Yeah,
I don't mind it.
To me, I just don't understand it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just this logo.
Just pointless, yeah. I don't know. But
I feel like the
otherwise,
swoosh isn't big enough. That's my design critique on this one. I really like when on the other Jumpmans they have a really big swoosh. Mm-hmm. And on these ones, even the reverse is not very big. So
yeah, because usually it would continue through the back.
Yep.
To the next one, but
yep. Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice. They're different.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they're a valuable shoe. I don't know that I'll. I say if they don't increase in value, like next year, I might wear them just because I have them. But I think they'll increase in value, and I'll be able to turn them over and whatnot. But also, that's a lot of work, and I might not bother.
Yeah.
I might just keep them in their box.
That's a lot.
So
if you're still watching this episode, you're a shoe dork.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm all right with that.
That's what we're here for. Talk about financial services and shoes. So there you go.
Nice. Well, thanks for bringing those. That's pretty cool. I can't believe you hit him.
I can't.
And then like a week later, he hits these Kobe's for me that I.
Yeah. But the problem is, I never hit the shoes I want. Like, I didn't really want these shoes. I was just like, well, they're Travis Scott's. I'm going to have to do it. And I hit them. And then, like, the Kobe's, I didn't want the Kobe's. Somebody else wanted the Kobe's, and I got those. Crystal wanted a pair of SB Dunks a year. She wanted them. I didn't care about them. Hit them. Every single pair of SB Dunks, I don't get.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. So, I try every time. But
maybe next episode we'll just do shoes again.
Maybe. Anyway, that's all we got for this one. To be continued.
All right, we'll see you in the next one.